The Autumn-class heavy cruiser. The ship that would not die. With the Eternity and the Civilian Defense Force, the CDF, going to war, all stops were pulled out. New destroyer doctrines were trained for and executed. Project Leviathan was implemented. Civilians shuffled away from the center. DDK programs was implemented, and information blackouts on the Eternity's task and purpose and location in the system were enforced. And finally, the CDF heavy cruiser Autumn was constructed, meant to be first of many to counteract the EFN Eternity's advent incursion into CDF space. She was designed with a very large thruster bank, allowing for heavy forward mobility, a forward-oriented main battery, and an immensely survivable design. The goal? Provide a anti-super capital ship base platform to begin taking the fight to the EFN Eternity and the Riders. Her debut was actually not against the Eternity. Her and her task force Feuerlöscher, also known as Task Force Fire Extinguisher, intercepted a Rider formation that was retrieving Rider POWs, previously saved on the battle over the moon about 2 weeks earlier. Her gun-forward wedge-shaped design was extremely effective in offensive-type battles, where she could bring a lot of her forward armament to bear against a fleeing or defending force. In this initial battle, the Autumn proved adept at eliminating the destroyer escort, and suppressing the now famous Rider armor cruiser, the Midnight Oil. However, this came with a cost. While the Oil was effectively weakened and her escort destroyed, the EFN Eternity's advent arrived on station, taking the formation off guard. The 3 destroyers and the Autumn, against a damaged but armored cruiser and a 6th generational battleship, proved too much, and the CDF ranks were immediately scattered in record time. The Autumn herself received a near mortal blow, severing her entire rear section in a single lance plus 400mm salvo. All was not lost, however. Moments before, the Autumn was able to deploy an elite Marine strike team, which quickly overwhelmed the Oil's crew, who, in a last desperate bid to prevent her capture, detonated the Oil's core. After repairs and an emergency crew replacement, the Autumn would join a QRF meant to pin down the Eternity, now still in CDF territory, and force it back into Rider space. Now, with some training and adjustments under her belt, a new doctrine, the deployment of the DDK program, Super Capital Ship Killer Destroyers, the Eternity being by herself, and of course, the Autumn, this would be enough to bring the EFN Eternity to her heels and force her to retreat into Rider space. However, she was not able to do this before being crippled by the EFN Eternity, once again denying the ability for that ship to be cornered and captured. As the now Rider EFN versus CDF war heated up, we rushed back into battle with prompt repairs. Representing currently the only cruiser on the EFN front line, with all other cruisers pressing into Winchester Shipyard, she would join battle against a large Rider EFN task force, with her own task force to boot. In her initial battle, she would score 2 kills on a Rider Outlander class, the Lightfoot, and a missile frigate, Emerald. However, with the loss of the Exeter DDA and the frigate Glowworm, the flank was lost and she retreated to the local fob. In a situation that was becoming repetitive, she would once again, the 3rd time now, receive borderline mortal damage from the EFN's main salvo. However, she managed to limp away, all the while screaming a now famous phrase, "Rules alive." With her duty in the Rider EFN CDF war ended, as well as the desire to construct ships of her design, making her the only in her class. However, peace was not to last. With the attack of the unknown force identifying as the Khan's Enclave, she was once again rushed into service, pushing towards Winchester Shipyard to defend it. As the battle increased in intensity, her now ship-in-arms, the Rider Sigil of War cruiser, was destroyed, and herself was on her last legs, continuing to defend a structure that once belonged to an enemy. In a move that can only be considered awfully convenient for the plot, the Eternity and the Ravager showed up, 2 battleships, pushing the odds back into the COA's favor. saving the, once again, on the brink of death, CDF Autumn. At this point, the CDF Autumn was quickly surpassing the Midnight Oil's legacy of being an unkillable ship, with 4 separate instances of near death under her belt. As this now KE versus COA war dragged into its first month, the Autumn would lead a charge in the defense of the core of the Outer Reach, going against the now infamous Gary the Woe in a close nail-biter of a battle. However, while the Autumn would surprisingly, for once, not take near-lethal damage, the attempt to push the KE back has failed. Thus, the middle stage of the war would begin as the KE had finally established themselves a beachhead into the Outer Reach and into Ryder and CDF territory. Heading back for repairs, the situation would be repeated itself, however in reverse, as Shiver Squadron would go up against Kestrel Squadron with the now famous Autumn at its helm, ready to go against the flow once again. However, in a staggering defeat, it appears the Autumn's lives had ran out. In a catastrophic series of events, in rapid, near instantaneous fashion, the Autumn moved away from her escort, had her bridge instantly destroyed, thus temporarily rendering her blind. She would attempt a wildcat retreat. However, even this immensely survivable ship, alone and separated from her escort, would be pummeled to death by all hostile ships present. The ship that survived repeated near-death moments seemed to have run her course. She was destroyed with all hands with not a scrap remaining. Her fellow ships, enraged by the loss, committed to the fight. However, they too were also utterly annihilated. On this day, the Khans attacked theater-wide, resulting in 9 CDF ships' complete hull loss. This was almost the same amount of ships lost in the entire 3-month war previously. Thus, when the CDF Autumn, a ship that would not die, died, the CDF Spirit died with her. From here on out, no serious attempts at a breakout would occur, no true offensive actions would be tried other than token efforts. And with that, the CDF prepared themselves for a long winter as autumn finally came to an end. Hey, if you enjoyed this, note this was not some random story. This was the ship CDF Autumn, a ship present in our RP D&D Space Engineers-esque server. She and many other ships have stories like this, so if you're interested in checking out others, or making your own story with your own ship, consider checking it out. Pinned on my page is the video describing what it's like and how we do things, and the Discord has the rules. That being said, thanks for watching. Comment down below what your thoughts on the Autumn was, and I'm sure, perhaps share a story of a ship that you had like the Autumn. Maybe not spectacular in design, maybe not overwhelming, but for some reason, it just would not die. I know we all have a ship like that. Anyway, I'll see you guys around for the next one.